let's get down to business. So eternal life, the gift of eternal life. That's what we're talking about today, and it's actually a very exciting topic. Last year, I began thinking about this idea of immortality. So I'm in the last third of my life, and I don't mean to sound morbid or anything, but I'm in the last third of my life, and that means that my days are numbered. So what do I do with those days that I have left? And again, I'm not being morbid. It's what do I choose? If I am immortal and there is an eternal self that I get to be a part of, then how does that affect my choice? And it affects it deeply. I'll tell you why. So often I hear, oh, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. We've heard that, yeah. Well, here's the thing. If I'm immortal and I have an infinite self, then the truth is that I am a spiritual being having a spiritual experience. In fact, Charles Fillmore said, allow the God self to inform the outer self. So even Charles Fillmore is talking about spiritual beings having a spiritual experience. And so, all right, you can say to me, okay, Martha, so who cares? Fair question, yeah? Fair question. So why does it matter that I'm a spiritual being having a spiritual experience? What does that mean? And I'll tell you why that's important. Because it informs how I live my life. Am I being pushed by the pain or pulled by a vision? Am I being pushed by the pain or pulled by a vision? What does that mean to be a spiritual being having a spiritual experience? And here's the thing. If I walk down here, can people outside still see me? People out? Oh, they can? Oh, good. Phew. Thank you. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm told I can stand here. Okay. So what it means is people often think, I know I have in the past, I think, well, I changed because I'm uncomfortable, I'm in pain. There's something that's driving me to change, yeah? Well, but that's not it. I'm uncomfortable because I've already changed. My soul, my spirit has already set a new standard for who I am, and I become uncomfortable. It's not okay to wear these old tight shoes anymore. It's not okay. And my spirit is so strong, my soul is so strong, that often it takes people, places, and things out of my life. And sometimes it even feels like the other person was the moving party. But that's not the case. I had outgrown them. I had outgrown that person. I had outgrown that place. I'd outgrown that thing, that job, and so I changed. So I go back to that, am I being pushed by the pain or pulled by the vision? And I have to be, once I have that discomfort going on, I already know that the change has happened. And so what am I going to do with that? Am I going to identify that new self? And then I develop a good, so good. And that's what this meditation was about this morning. Developing a good, so good. I love being me. And I know, easier said than done, yeah? Yeah, but it can be done. So there's this story about a woman she's living in a city, not like Albuquerque I know that's the big city for us. I love living in Albuquerque. But so She's living in a city and she's off to work, and every day she passes by a pet store. And one day she passes by and there's a parrot in a cage on display outside the pet store. And it's beautiful. This parrot is gorgeous. And so she walks by and she's like, oh my God, parrot, you are so beautiful. And the parrot says, you are ugly. And then goes on to like really talk horrible to her. And the woman is just, taken back, and she says, okay, it's just a parrot. I'm going to go by. So next day she goes by, the parrot's there. This time she doesn't even get to the cage. It is on her. You are ugly, and you are, and continues on. And she's like, oh my God, parrot. And so she's ignoring it because it's just a parrot. So finally she lets it go on for a while. And then finally she's like, no, this is too much. So she goes into the pet store and she talks to the owner. She says, that parrot you've got out there, it's assaulting me every single day. I don't like it. You better get rid of this parrot. I'm going to inform the authorities. And so the owner says, okay, because he'd had some complaints already about this parrot. So he waits for the lady to leave. And he goes over and goes, parrot, get your act together. You find some nice words, or you are out of here. There are things I am going to do with you, parrot. And the parrot's like, okay. So, next day, the lady's walking down the street and comes up on the parrot. Parrot. She's staring at the parrot. Parrot's staring at her. They have kind of a staring contest. And she just looks at him. She's like, and the parrot says, you know what I mean. So that's not unlike the inner voices that we have every so often, right? I have had in the past these inner voices, and they come up every so often like that parrot. And even though I go in and talk to the owner of this parrot, right? Martha, get your act together. You know those things aren't true. You know you're not less than. You know that this isn't happening. You know. The parrot continues. These are these inner voices. And sometimes what's really difficult about these inner voices is that they started even before we were conscious. They may have come down from family. They may have come from places that it's just a habit now to have those voices inside. But here's the beautiful thing about New Thought, is that in New Thought, we believe that we can change the voices. The past does not set precedent. We know this. So we are able to put a demand on the law and say, not only am I not going to live like this anymore, and here's being pulled by the vision, this is how I'm going to live. It's not enough to say, I don't like this. I don't like this. And right now in our country, there's a lot of places where people are saying, I don't like this. But how am I going to live? How am I going to be at a time when the eternal self meets the eternal self of other people, and we are lighting the light for other people? What is going to be the case? And we go back to the basics. We go back to principle here, because our prayers in New Thought are not the prayers of olden days. I call them the foxhole prayers, where you kind of in there, you go, please God, please God, please God. Let me not get in trouble just this one time, please. And before I found New Thought, it would pass, and I'd be like, got away with it that time. And when I do it again, well, God, you knew who you were dealing with. You knew I was going to do it again. But in New Thought, we put a demand on the law. Why? Because we are one with the energy that transforms lives. We are one with the energy that changes, because conditions change. People are the ones that experience the conditions. The conditions are not an entity. We are the entities. I am an entity. You are an entity. What a beautiful day to be you. What a beautiful day to be me. I am an entity experiencing these conditions. And what am I going to do to put a new vision of self into the world? So I had an experience. Well, I've had several of these, but it always feels like a miracle. So last year, and so I have friends here who've already heard this story, so please bear with me. Thank you. Okay, thank you. They're saying bring it on. Those are true friends. Yeah, we'll hear your story for the 80th time. No, okay. So last year, actually I haven't told it that often, maybe 82, 72 or no. So I'd had this cough. It started in May of 2015 with a bronchitis. So the bronchitis went away, the cough did not go away. And so I'd been everywhere, every doctor, holistic, otherwise, everyone. What is going on with this cough? So it hadn't gone away. So last fall, I was like, that's it. God, you and I are coming eye to eye, toe to toe on this one, because I do not want to live like this anymore. And here's how I do want to live. I want to live healthy. I want to live free. I want to be able to walk and talk and be without this cough. So about a week after, so I do one of these prayers, these, toe-to-toe, eye-to-eye kind of prayers with God, and stuff begins to happen. And so I'm going to put a pin in that story right there, because there's some backstory you need to know about it. So a few months earlier, my husband is a school teacher. And so the school year had ended in May, and he came home one day and he said, Martha, by the time I go back to school in the fall, I want to be in the habit of going to the gym every morning. So I'm going to get up at 4 in the morning and be at the gym by 4:30 in the morning. Right? And he says, do you want to go? I go, no. No, I don't. So I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, I don't want to go because it's early in the morning. Well, I woke up early in the morning all my life, so that wasn't it. The reason I didn't want to go was because I needed a half hour to an hour to cough in the morning. Once I was done coughing, then I could get on with my day. And I said that to my husband. Well, so he goes off to the gym. And he's kind of a smooth operator, this guy. He says, every now and again, he'd go, you want to come to the gym with me? And I go, no. So a couple months go by, and the sane voice in my head takes over. And it says, Martha, are you listening to yourself? You really aren't going to the gym because you have to cough? And so I'm like, wait, it sounds silly, right? So I go, okay, I'll go. So I start going with him to the gym. First, it's not pretty, but that's a whole other story. So we get to the gym, and so now go back to this demand I've put on the law. So about a week after, we're at the gym, and this friend of mine, I'll call him John, the social director, he knows everybody. He's that guy that knows everybody at the gym. And he says, John comes up and he says, Martha, there's a guy over there. He's on the treadmill, and there's kind of a level above where all the treadmills are. And he says, there's a guy on the treadmill who says he can help. He's been listening to you cough, and he can help you with your cough. He says he's a doctor from Ecuador, and he can help you. And I go, really? And he says, the thing is, he doesn't speak English. And I go, okay. So I didn't tell John this, but I speak Spanish. So I walk over, and this guy, at first, I'd like to say that I rushed over, but I didn't. I was like, oh my God. So here is my opportunity to change, to be pulled by the vision that I had told God about, right? Here's the opportunity right in my lap. And I go, I don't know if I should go. Oh my gosh. Who is this guy? And, and he's up on the treadmills or people on either side of him. How am I even going to talk to him? So all of the reasons not to go. So I'm finally like, shut up, Martha, just go. So I go up, and this man touched my heart deeply. He walks over with his cell phone so that he can translate immediately, so he can tell me what he needs to tell me. And so we start talking, and he goes, wow, you speak Spanish? I go, yeah, I do. And so he begins to help me. And so he had brought medicine with him, and the medicine didn't help. And he said, if only you would go to Ecuador, I could do a full workup on you. Everything would be great. And so over a few months, my husband said, well, I have spring break in March. So we just got back from Ecuador last week on Monday. And I had to come here, so that's why we're back already. No, that's not true completely. But so I went down to Ecuador, state-of-the-art equipment, everything. I met with 2 specialists, all of that. Found out I'm perfectly healthy. It comes down to, well, I'm not going to give you all the gory details, but it comes down to things that can be dealt with. And this demand I had put on the law is already taking effect. I'm a spiritual being having a spiritual experience, and I have put the demand on the law that my life is going to be different. Here is the vision that is pulling me. Here is the vision that is pulling me. I'm no longer being pushed by the pain. Being pushed by the pain meant I was not going to go to the gym because I had to take time out of my precious day, because I only have a few left, right? It's going to take time out of my precious day to cough away. So here I am with it. And my next is to develop a good so good that it is going to carry me and us through this next phase of our lives together in this country. And here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to tell you. You are needed. You are necessary. We together are developing a consciousness so good that it will take us to our next phase, because it will not be like this all the time. It will not. And yes, it's good to acknowledge that. It's important to acknowledge that. To surround ourselves with people like the people at Unity. To surround ourselves with a goodness so good that it becomes something amazing, wonderful. To become so enamored of the self, and I don't mean in a prideful way, because that's how I was brought up. To love the self was to mean I was in a prideful way, but to love the self so beautifully that this God that I am, that Charles Fillmore talked about, the God that indwells becomes the God of the outer world. This light that animates our body becomes so bright that the moment you walk into a room, you light up the room, not just because you're brighter, but because I've now given people permission, you've given people permission to light that candle, to light the life inside of them, to light it, to become that much of a bright light in the world. That is the gift of the eternal self. So, we covered a lot of territory this morning, but you have some homework to do. My old friends at my old center, they know that I always gave them homework, and I hope you don't mind. Well, you don't get graded, frankly. But here's your homework. Light yourself up. Find that life that animates your body. Allow it to become that bright light. Allow it to become so bright that it gives other people permission to light their lives. And with that, we begin to change the world. I'm excited, and I hope you're excited. Thank you for letting me be with you today. Namaste. Good.